Welcome everyone to another presentation by the AI Collective in collaboration with 757 Collab, representative here Charlie. And we're here to talk to you about AI and startups and business and how AI can accelerate and augment individuals in pursuit of business goals, which are ultimately to solve the needs of other people, right?
Me first?
Sure.
All right. Hey y'all, my name is Charlie O'Brien. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Legentic, which is an AI platform that helps you reverse engineer your goals and use AI to help you achieve it. And then I'm also the operations and product manager at 757 Collab, which is the region's leading AI-first startup accelerator, helping you go from ideation all the way to venture capital.
Great, and I am Andrew Stafford. I am one of the co-leads of the local AI Collective chapter. The AI Collective is a global organization with 151,000 members in pursuit of learning about and utilizing AI. And I personally have a background in tech, multiple startups, exits, all of that fun stuff, and worked at many different tech companies. And now I run an AI agency and a startup and some other stuff. So, on to what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, so kind of going over everything here. Just like in AI, you need to understand the context. So we're going to kind of put everything into perspective for you to be able to understand how to utilize AI most effectively. After that, we're going to be talking about kind of those essential skills that you need and kind of giving you some tools to be able to help you through that journey of how to utilize AI most effectively. You want to go next? Or do you want me to keep going?
Keep going.
All right. So core startup functions and AI applications. I mean, again, AI kind of touches every industry that we're all involved in. It helps us all the way from research and ideation, right, which is a big part of how you actually start a company, is understanding the needs of your market. It helps you do development for technical and non-technical founders. It helps you do branding and visual identity. I do a lot of that, so I can definitely speak to you on that. Marketing and advertising, content creation, SEO, sales process and outreach. Again, like it literally touches every facet of your life. And I think you'll walk away with something no matter what part of the industry that you're in. And so then too, like we'll kind of talk about what's the next evolution of AI, and we'll talk about what AI agents are. Who here has heard about AI agents? Can you give me a show of hands? Amazing. So we'll go a little bit into that as well, and give you kind of that practical takeaway, as Andrew likes to says, like your Monday morning action plan. When you wake up on Monday next week, you're probably on vacation, but when you wake up on Monday in the new year, you'll know exactly what to do.
Great. All right, so the first and one of the most important foundations in why we're discussing AI in the context of startups is that AI is essentially a force multiplier, a human augmenter, right? Its current capability, despite what you may have heard in the media, is not to replace human beings, right? It's to augment human beings. It makes human beings more efficient, and to a degree, it levels the playing field, right? Many businesses, if you're a business owner or worked in a traditional business, right, you have employees or people on your team that have a variety of skill sets and knowledge levels and output. And one of the big determining factors in that level of output, right, is their level of knowledge and their rough IQ score and many of these different things, which AI, due to the capability of the systems and the abundance and availability of them, allows even the lower performers on the team to level the playing field with what would have been the high performers prior to the last year or two. And despite that, the high performers, the ones that lean fully into AI, also get a force multiplier where they can start doing the work of 5, 10, 20 individuals of what might have been on their team previously. And this has been shown essentially across nearly every field and industry, from traditional business to science and research. Even Nobel Prize winners are now cranking out more papers than ever. So AI is, again, that force multiplier and augmenter rather than a replacement for individuals and humans now.
Exactly, and just kind of building on that for one moment, I'll give you an anecdote. Like when I started working on projects with AI, the ability for me to be able to go to an AI coding tool, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and to be able to put in, these are my ideas, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And I did have a technical background, but not a great one. it was able to, like you said, force multiply what I was able to do. I was able to push out hundreds of updates a day that previously I could only do one, maybe two, and that's one person. So just think about that compounded over the entirety of your business. And so talking about kind of like those prerequisite skills, if you want to be able to create that level of output, there's a great kind of analogy, or pardon me, there's a kind of great, what's it called when you use something like that? Anyway,
Just a framework, or
there we go.
an acronym.
Acronym, thank you. So the framework is RCTF, and my friend Luke there in the audience, he's always telling me use an acronym to be able to remember it. I was not good in school, he was, so maybe that tells you something. But it's really coming to fruition, right? So if you're trying to use AI, always remember really coming to fruition. And the idea there is that your role, you give it the role, you tell the AI, this is what you're gonna do. This is who you're gonna be. And when you do that, you say something like, act as a senior Python developer. And when you do that, it's gonna be more capable in that specific domain. And you give it kind of the context of what you're trying to do, right? You give it the context that it needs in order to actually understand what's the task that you're trying to accomplish. Super simple. I'm building a CRM for a local bakery. And then after that, you give it the specific task within that kind of context or that goal that you're trying to create. And you say, okay, write a script to calculate the weekly churn. Just like that, and that's all you need. And if you give it the format, the output that you desire, for example, output the answer as a code block with comments, you're gonna get that output structure as asked, right? And if you wanna take a look here kind of at this anecdote, and I think this is yours, Andrew, but I think it's a really great one. A local coffee shop owner told Andrew that she tried ChatGPT and it didn't work. We asked to see her prompt, and she had typed, quote, write a marketing plan. Listen, I've been there, it's late at night. I'm like, just do the thing I'm telling you to do, right? You should understand. But no, of course not. Andrew's analogy is great here. It's like walking into like a restaurant and saying, hey chef, make me some food. How the heck is the chef gonna know what you want? How are they gonna know what you actually need? They're not. And so if you retailer that prompt, and Andrew can help you do that, to say something like act as a local marketing expert, role, context, write a 4-week Instagram plan for a coffee shop in wherever you are, targeting college students focusing on latte art. And that, it changes everything. It changes that output from being very vague, very not easy to understand, not providing you any value, to giving you something concrete and actionable.
It's funny, that anecdote is surprisingly common amongst humans, regardless of age, right? I have a 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, and an 11-year-old, and all 3 of them initially approached using Claude and Gemini the same way. And I have many clients, right, who are 30, 40, 50 years old with extensive experience, including in tech, that again, started the exact same way, tried to prompt that way. But again, that's part of the learning process. And keeping in mind that these are really tools, right? And so we're learning frameworks and languages to best communicate with these tools, to then implement them and get the most productivity and efficiency out of them for our lives. Aaron?
For the people who are new to our events, all of this information in these slides will be shared?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're taking notes or if you want to remember all of this good content, these slides will be shared.
All of these slides will be in our Slack channel. I believe Ted provided the Slack invite somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fabulous, yeah.
If you haven't joined the Slack channel yet, definitely hop in there. It's amazing. There's so many amazing people working on great things in AI, so definitely join. I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, and it's not just the local area that gives you access to the entire global infrastructure of the AI Collective, which is, again, 151,000 people right now. So it's a massive organization. There's people that have and give away free access to a lot of upcoming tools. You know, I got free access to a year of Bolt and a year of Lovable and a lot of the other building tools from being a part of the plan.
And real quick, I'm just gonna give you guys a little game here. So if you're kind of struggling on how to get the right output out of AI, we made this tool way back in the day, which is called Prompt Maker Owl. And Prompt Maker Owl, you essentially just tell it what you're trying to do. It asks you a series of questions to understand how to write the right prompt for what you're trying to do. So if you want to use that, you can scan the QR code there. You can also talk to me after. I'm happy to send it to you.
Yeah, and what Charlie actually brings up is a very important concept that we didn't elucidate in these slides, which is that oftentimes the most effective use of these LLMs is to have a conversation with them. It's not even necessarily to do prompt engineering. It is to give them the idea or the outcome that you'd like and have it ask the questions to you, right? You say, I want to make a business plan. This is my idea, right? I want to sell, bird feed or whatever it is. What kind of things do I need to be thinking about in the business context, in the local area, what kind of documents do I need to go to market, how do I raise funding, all of these things. And it will give you 10, 20, 30 questions, and you'll answer those, and then we'll formulate those into a more coherent framework, and then we'll ask you more questions, and then more questions, and you'll iterate and refine a high-quality business plan and framework. And even potentially a go-to-market strategy, an ad campaign strategy, and the development framework with like a product roadmap and development checklist for building applications and websites and web apps, all from that simple initial prompt. So completely doable by people with no technical expertise.
That's the elite tip right there. If you're gonna write anything down, that's the tip to write down. Seriously.
All right, so now that we've learned a bit about prompting, right, and how to prompt properly, putting it in action, there's a number of different ways that we can put it in action within here, within LLMs. And so the problem is, Google will give you links. Now it gives you like a little bit of an AI summary too. Sometimes it's, fairly relevant and accurate, sometimes not. But then there's also many LLM-based tools like Perplexity, which actually routes all of that to an LLM on the back end, which you get to choose anyway. So any of the 3 LLMs after this are potentially routable by Perplexity. And then you give the use case, right? So in this case, we're talking about research and strategy for a business, right? We're talking about startups and individuals who want to create a startup. And so we're ideating potential business ideas. And so we give it the role that we talked about before, which is you're a local business analyst. Find me the top 5 complaints that people have about local plumbing services because we're thinking about starting a plumbing company. And so we want to find things that people in your local area are complaining about, which is very useful to identify, develop business processes to correct those deficits in their business processes, and then immediately pull customers because they have dissatisfied customers who are generally looking for new businesses that can meet their need without having the issues that the companies had that they were complaining about, right? And then you suggest a way to implement the changes within the business framework that you're conceptualizing, and then work all of those business processes into an attached business plan, and then output the updated business plan as a document, right? And so it's following that same type of framework where you give the adequate specificity, the role, the context, and the format for the output. And the result is a killer business plan, right? You can even iterate further than this, as we were describing, just before this. But this type of business plan and this type of conversation with the LLM will have high quality output, and it's what many very successful, entrepreneurs do now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm going to go into that a little bit kind of on the next slide.
Sure.
So kind of building on that, I'm going to go on a little bit of a kind of a conversation here and kind of tell you a bit of a story based on that idea exactly. So I graduated from college about 2.5 years ago. And when I graduated college, I had about 1 million ideas. And if you're a startup entrepreneur, you're probably the same way. You've got about 1 million ideas, and you probably don't know actually how to get there. And I can tell you that that is definitely what I felt. I bounced between quantum communication technology, all the way over to turning trash into treasure using mycelium. I was completely all over the place. And at the time, actually, ChatGPT 3.5 had come out. And exactly what Andrew was talking about, I kind of started to realize, right? I could ask ChatGPT, hey, I have this goal. I have this objective. I'm trying to do this thing in the world. I'm trying to change it in some meaningful way. And I think if you're in this room, you probably think like that. And what happened was, it gave me this amazing plan, a perfect plan for how to get from where I am to where I'm trying to go. Has anyone in this room played Skyrim before? Anyone played Skyrim? Okay, we got a couple Skyrim players, all right? But in Skyrim, just to make this a little bit real for everyone, there's a spell called clairvoyance. And what you do is you cast the spell, and it elucidates sort of this trail of light on the ground. And all you have to do is follow the light to be able to get to where you want to go. It takes you from where you are to your goal that you're trying to get to. And so once I realized that ChatGPT could do something like this, I had this epiphany. I had this realization that I could do anything that I put my mind to. I could find out how to get to wherever I wanted to go, and I would have a plan, right? I'd have a document that would show me exactly to where I wanted to go. So I walked into work the next day, and I was bouncing with joy. I told myself, well, I can do it all. I can do it all. And Well, life got a hold and weeks passed by, right? And at some point, that strategic plan that I had generated after 50 more ideas, it just sat on that shelf and nothing ever happened with it. And what I realized was the missing ingredient for me was accountability. It was structure. It was being able to look at this plan, not just have it in a document, but being able to utilize it. And at the time, I was learning about calendars and project management tools to be able to help me manage my own life. And so what I realized was I could take that output and I could turn it into a structured plan of action. And that's what kind of birthed Clairvoya, which is our product at Legentic. And what I realized was once I had that, I was starting to create this velocity around what I was doing. I was able to actually build on my plans. And a mentor of mine, he told me, Charlie, you think a lot about ideas, you think a lot about how to get there, but you don't ever think about who to bring on board. And in that moment, I truly realized the last missing piece. And we're gonna talk a little bit about AI agents later in this, but that's the next step of what we did. Inside that plan, inside that project that you've developed, inside that goal that you're trying to achieve, you're no longer alone. You have a team of AI agents there at your disposal, so that in one click, you can delegate the work of that task directly to an AI agent. So what does that mean? It means that now you can get asked a series of questions to be able to understand what is your goal? How much time do you have to spend on it? It creates it into a concrete plan of action based on the amount of time that you have to be able to reverse engineer your goals and then delegate your work to AI. I will not lie, it's not perfect, so I just wanted you to know, but what we're trying to do is to help everyone in this room really achieve what I know all of you want to do, all the dreams that you have. And I'd really love if you came and talked to me at the end and joined our alpha user group to be able to help us serve you in serving our community. So thank you for that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but through 757 Collab, they can all access this for free?
Yes, so if you come down to 757 Collab as well, we have a great partnership, that's where I work, as well. And if you want to start your entrepreneurial journey, you can come down to 757 Collab and use this software and get guidance on how to achieve your goals as well. And you can also book a time with me at the end. It's fully available to everyone.
Yeah, I think Charlie did a great job of illuminating one of the most insidious traps for business owners and entrepreneurs too, which is you have a great idea and a great business plan that's functional, it works, you can bring it to market, you can start making money, but then you have another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and which one do you actually take action on? And you realize that, you know, the reason why many businesses fail, the reason most businesses fail, is because you have too many ideas that you can't properly act on all of them, right?
Yes.
And
But maybe you can. Maybe you can.
maybe with AI agents, you can do so to a degree, right? The full ecosystem, despite, you know, the things we're gonna be talking about here, do not allow for full automation of all, you know, aspects of a business yet, but maybe within a couple years, right? Certainly could be possible. All right, so now we're talking about implementation, right? So the first implementation we're gonna kind of dive into is development for non-technical founders. And in my opinion, this is actually the best time ever in the history of everything that non-technical founders can start businesses, because with tools like Claude Code, with Cursor, with any of those other development tools, with proper prompt engineering, anyone with any background can build highly functional tools, applications, and websites, right? I've tested this. My 4-year-old built something, my 8-year-old built something, my 11-year-old has built like 17 games and 10 websites and all this stuff. So like, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter how technical you are. There are tools out there now with natural language, with speaking to them directly with your voice. You can build nearly everything that you want on a technical side. You can deploy it to very high quality databases, so things like Supabase. You can use very high quality deployment infrastructure like Vercel and Railway. All of those things can connect natively to tools like Cursor and Claude Code. And again, no technical background needed. A very simple, like 10-minute YouTube video can just show you how to do all of it.
I can agree with that. I'm living proof of that.
Yeah. Anyway, so some of those tools that we talked about, right, are like Bolt.new and Fly.ai, which are no-code web-based builders where you go in, use natural language, and the output of them is a website. It is a web app that you can use, that you can bring up on your phone and show off to your friends, right? So an example would be, I need a dashboard that tracks inventory for my landscaping business, and you give it a CSV that has all of the inventory, and it will build the website for you, that simply.
And one thing I'll add, one of the reasons why we put VLY AI on here is it also integrates that backend database. So if you've ever used tools like this before, you might have just gotten a nice UI, but you actually haven't gotten any sort of database software underneath that. So when you upload that CSV, it's not just that static CSV asset anymore, it's actually gonna live in your database and being able to update that in real time as well. Yeah, so if you're more of a developer as opposed to kind of a person who's just trying to build a product to kind of bring it to market with people, all these tools are great. Cursor, Kilo, Anti-Gravity, GitHub Copilot. Honest to God, I think all these tools are equally great. I don't think you can go wrong picking one over the other. Here's how I have used it in the past. You know, before, when I had ideas or problems of things that I wanted to build, I'd have to sit there painstakingly and code it line by line, right? With Python at the time, that's what I was using. And ChatGPT came out with its ability with Codex, and I would just go to Codex and I would be like, okay, you write this for me, right? And then eventually that got integrated into, at the time I think I was using VS Code, right? And overnight, I was able to produce so much more output than I was before. All I had to do was think of an idea and it would implement it into the code. So I think if you're thinking about achieving 30 to 50% faster coding speeds, these are the tools for you. And honest to God, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think that's an understatement. I think you can ship like almost 100 features in a day. That's what I did one time.
Yeah, and I work with these tools in a variety of contexts, right? I've been a software architect and an AI and a cloud architect for a long time, and I've worked embedded in many development teams, and I've seen a variety of development practices over the years, and there's many engineers and developers that are very skeptical of using these tools, and you probably have seen a lot of news articles that have come out within the last year where even very recently people are decrying these tools as like not very effective and efficient and still riddled with bugs and all of these things. And part of that, or a great deal of that, is due to them not having tested them very recently. Because the speed with which the companies building these tools are iterating and the rapid improvement in the models means that Cursor using Claude Opus 4.5, which is the number one coding LLM on the back end right now, is 10 times as efficient and as effective and 10 times less error prone than it was at the beginning of this year. So people are still, who have tested these tools before last year or earlier this year, are still under the mistaken interpretation that these tools are still riddled with errors, that they can't fully complete things, that they're essentially a junior engineer, when now they are very much moving into like the middle engineer, senior engineer space. They can effectively, efficiently, and using the agents that Charlie brought up, complete entire projects, completely without human intervention for the most part. Obviously, it depends on the complexity of the project. I have tested some Web3 projects using fairly custom languages and things that it doesn't always get right, but standard languages like Next.js and things like that, it is very almost miraculous in a sense. So, all right, that's super big on brand identity.
Yeah, I can talk about it too.
Sure.
So I spend a lot of time making social media content every day. Pretty much, I'm posting across multiple different channels. AI has obviously been a complete game changer. I used to spend hours and hours, my team would spend hours and hours making photos, taking videos, all of that good stuff. And we use tools like Midjourney, Ideogram, and Nano Banana, and we have a great guide on Nano Banana, which is really fun. But one of the best tools has been Higgsfield as well. Higgsfield kind of combines all of these different tools into one interface. Highly recommend that, so you don't have to have all this sprawl of all these different tools. Higgsfield is great. And to me, right, like what you're doing is kind of thinking about, okay, these photos that I want to use, they don't really look realistic, they don't really represent the identity of my brand. and you can just use AI to describe it using the same prompt maker, OWL, or whatever tool you want to use to write that prompt, or just ask it, right? It can create an amazing, amazing graphic for you. Now, I will tell you that a lot of the platforms, like if you're creating social content, which we'll get to in a little bit more, but they've actually started downgrading that content. So you have to be careful about this kind of stuff, but depending on kind of where you're trying to use it and how you're trying to use it, it can make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and developing a brand kit for your company is very useful in a broad sense, not just for social media, but also for developing and aligning your website, your products, and many of these different things. Nano Banana, as Charlie was talking about, is a great image generation tool and was the king up until a couple of days ago, or a week ago, something like that, when GPT released their image model that dethroned it. I've tested it, it is very good. But these tools are incredible. If you haven't used Nano Banana, you haven't used the new GPT image model, they can take this water bottle, put it into a photo of myself, put me with a background of a Christmas tree, from this photo, that would be of me, up here presenting, and give me, a crazy smile on my face, all of these different types of edits. They can take your business logo, they can slap your business logo on products. It can do incredible work that, again, wasn't possible more than 3 or 4 months ago, and is incredibly useful for business owners that want to rapidly iterate and test new products and product lines. All right, so another part of building your brand, right, is the utilization of AI tools for marketing and advertising. So this is using that brand kit and developing, content creation and copywriting. Obviously you have to build the bridge of trust with your customers, right? That's essentially what copywriting is for, building that bridge of trust. And all of the LLMs are very good at doing copywriting, right? It's trained on the entire corpus of human knowledge and writing. And so it's very adept at the type of patterns that people are receptive to. And so the copy that AI generates tends to be very high quality. And then visual design, many of the visual tools that we talked about on the last slide are also very good. But there are some tools that go beyond, including some of the integrations that these tools like ChatGPT have with Canva, Claude has with Canva, where you can tell the AI as part of building out that go-to-market plan for the business that you're ideating within those tools to also develop 10 social media posts for you. Whether or not you want to have it posted through an API, or if you want to just pull those and have those prepped for you in Canva, but then you go in and edit and then manually post, right, is up to you. But these tools are very sophisticated in that sense now, where previously you would hire an SMMA team to do this kind of work for you. You would pay them a couple $1,000s a month to do this work. And now with a simple prompt, you get a quality equal to an average SMMA company almost instantaneously. And in addition to that, right, you can do ad campaign management. Obviously, Meta and Google are kind of like the kings of advertising, right? Google with their AdWords and Meta with the Meta ad platform, which handles Facebook and Instagram. And they use AI within that system to optimize your ad copy, and you can use the image tools to create many variants of ad copy. And there is a guide to this on the Slack channel somewhere. In case someone is interested in that, we can point you towards those resources, because it's something that we do on a regular basis. But then there's other AI tools, right, like Fly AI and many others that can help generate ad campaigns across not just the Meta platform, but then also other platforms like Google and Reddit and other ad platforms across the world, even things like television and other video style content.
I just want to add a couple of things here as well. One of the things that we found too with using content creation tools like ChatGPT to create your content is oftentimes it kind of missed your voice, your brand, right? And so one of the things that we utilize is it's called Persona Parrot on the GPT store. And Persona Parrot is actually a structured interview that interviews the individual whose brand you might be doing, or a brand, whatever it might be, to be able to create an identity around the creation of your content. So you can take that, you can put it into a GPT or a Gem from Gemini to be able to then output aligned content to your brand. So that's one thing that we found helped a lot, like with our social posting, was before it felt bland, it didn't really feel aligned to like what I actually sounded like when I would talk to people, and then we used that thanks to Luke, he made that one, so it was really cool. And the other piece is, if you're creating high value content, like for example, demonstrations or giving away guides and stuff like that, you can kind of go into the deepfake territory with this as well, where you can actually clone yourself digitally using deepfake technology to be able to present that information without having to sit down every week to do that sort of spiel on presenting that as well. And we've seen with high value content specifically, very, very high engagement with like deepfake content, because it's not about entertainment, it's not about all that, it's about providing value. People don't really care what's presenting value, they just want the value.
Will it make you look like less of a salt proof and more like a marketing guy?
I think it could.
Yeah.
That's a lot of goods.
Yeah, and those workflows that Charlie was mentioning can be fully automated, right? There's templates on tools like N8N that connect to HeyGen, which is the persona cloning technology. And so you can create a fully automated workflow to create videos of anything that you want that are an avatar of yourself or one of the other pre-selected avatars that they have in their template database. All right, so the next part is utilizing your brand to build and do content creation and SEO, right? Another core part of getting your business discovered is getting people to look at your stuff, right? And so you create content, you publish the content on social media, and you set up SEO and backlinks and things like that to direct to your website and send it your product pages. And creating all of that content, setting up the backlinks, especially when you're not using programmatic SEO, can be incredibly time consuming, right? Oftentimes people outsource this and again pay several $1,000s to hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the size of the company that we're talking about. And so with some of these tools, right, like Volt and Lovable and Replit, you can create sites that have thousands of blog posts created initially, right? So one of my buddies, he runs a shredding company. His SEO ranking was terrible. He was one of the very few shredding companies in Canada to compete with Iron Mountain, which is kind of the king. But he was still on the 7th page of Google, despite essentially being the #2 shredder in the entire country. And with one simple fix, right, using programmatic SEO, we created 4,000 different blog pages for his website. And all of the traffic from that boosted him to the first page within 2 months. So these tools are incredibly powerful. They plug in the programmatic SEO frameworks, plug into tools like Volt and Lovable and Replit and the other no-code builders. So you can do it without having a technical background. And it allows you to, again, like it says, leverage AI to create content while you sleep, which is a goal for a lot of people using it, right? Anything to add to this?
Yeah, I was curious, like, do you have any thoughts on too, if you're using programmatic SEO, could you also add like a component for answering questions on those blog posts so you can kind of rank in generative optimization as well?
So asking questions like putting in quizzes,
So-
quizzes or forms or?
So a lot of people, I don't know, you're the expert here, so
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
literally asking on the fly here, but like for example, a lot of people say generative engine optimization is something that's of interest nowadays, right? How do you rank in the search engine, which is
Sure.
now ChatGPT, right? And what I've heard, again, I'm not saying that I'm right,
Yeah.
is that what you can do is if you provide Q&A sets on your website, which you're generating now thousands of, so I'm sure it would push that ranking up, can that help to influence generative engine optimization?
It can. Depending on the LLM, there's a number of different authority ranking metrics that they use to flag different content for then training and recommending within the LLMs. And so SEO is certainly one of those, though programmatic SEO as a concept and technology is fundamentally different from ranking in generative search engines, right? Programmatic SEO is really just using AI technology to copy a template for the blog post, but tailor them for different specific audiences, right? So the audience, like I was talking about for the shredding company, right? He wanted to reach out to shredding for doctors and shredding for lawyers and like all of the different types of businesses that would use the shredding services that his company offered, which is a little bit different, but still related in that his authority on the search rankings based on Google crawling his site and web pages do help with the authority rating that's also used for training the LLMs for utilizing and recommending your business in their output.
Thank you. You got this one.
Okay. All right, So, now that we've talked about generating your brand, right, the next part is selling your brand. And so there's many different aspects to the sales process, right? The first one, you have to onboard sales staff. You need a clear idea for how to train your new salespeople. You're bringing on SDRs, they have no idea of you, your company, the product you're trying to sell, different sales strategies and tactics that you've tried before, and so they need to be trained. And so there's many tools, AI and otherwise, to allow you to generate it, from cloning yourself with HeyGen and then creating a bunch of onboarding videos around your business and the product you're trying to sell, to setting up communities within school and Go High Level that use automation on the back end for onboarding and alignment and motivation and tracking and administering quizzes and tests to make sure that these people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and giving them certifications when they pass so they can actually be brought into your workforce and all of that, right? And these tools are incredibly effective. They're essentially, internal courses that you can host completely internal to your business or host publicly on the web. How many of you have actually looked into or are part of a school online? Okay, a good number of you. That's good. So these are, they're very widely used. There's millions of people in many of the larger communities, and they remain a very incredibly effective tool, both outward and inward for training and things like that as well. The next part is lead generation and enrichment, right? So you have leads. You can generate the leads manually. You can do targeted searches on Google and other traditional search platforms. You can go to specialized lead generation platforms, again, something like Apollo. And then there's many different scrapers that exist. I use Appify because Appify is one of the lower cost but still higher quality scraping tools. But it allows you to scrape essentially unlimited leads from any of those lead-based database platforms, including LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn has roughly 2 billion members that can be scraped from using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So you can generate a huge amount of leads, not just globally, but also, putting in local targeting. So you can target, every business in Virginia Beach, every, winery, every IT company, every, grocery in Virginia Beach, depending on what your target audience is, and generate that lead set very easily. You get their email, you get the names, the numbers, everything that you need to reach out and contact these people. And then another part of it is managing your pipeline, your sales pipeline, and your CRM. These are, two very effective AI native CRM tools. There's many tools out there depending on the goals that you have for your business, the type of business you're running. For service-based businesses, these are not going to be the best tools, right? For service businesses, you want something like House Call Pro or Jobber or something like that, which again are native AI on the back end and have a lot of automation built in. But they are better suited, again, to like the service company, like my buddy has the shredding company, or to, roofers or painters or, cleaners, things like that, right? Just because they do fleet management and other services that are related specifically to that type of service-based business. That GHL and some of their competitors to GHL, like Klaviyo and HubSpot and Salesforce and those type of well-known CRMs don't actually have. And then the next part is, once you have the client, you've sold the client, they're already in your CRM, you need to follow up and nurture with them. Some of them might not have purchased anything yet, so they're still a prospect, and so they're part of the prospect pipeline, and so they get nurture sequences to pre-sell them on the type of goods and services that you're selling. Or they're an already established client that you have that, you're coming out with a new product that you think they'll like. You're coming out with the iPhone 15 and they already have the 14, right? So they're already pre-sold essentially on the type of, technology or product you're trying to sell. And so you're sending out, these email nurture sequences, which are like, hey, we're coming out with the iPhone 15 in 2 weeks or whatever. And then you get excited, you go to the store, you get on the wait list, whatever, right? But every business that sells a product or service, for the most part, wants to do these type of follow-up and nurture sequences regardless of the phase in the pipeline that your customers are in.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just going on that same idea, right? You can see that AI can write garbage, right? It can write something that's completely useless on the left. And so if you're trying to nurture those leads, kind of like you're saying, and I'd be surprised if those don't have this built in already. they do, right? Helping you write good emails and stuff like that.
Yeah, they have tools to allow you to do it, yeah.
Amazing. So like using those tools, right, you can think about, okay, in the same way as before, how do you write an email that's effective? And I think you can use those tools as well, kind of in these products. I've not used Smart Lead Instantly or GHL personally, but you can write great content. So, and you can actually template inside of a GPT as well what a great piece of content would look like to send out, and then just one click, hey, can you do this for me? So.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of these tools have used, right? They're essentially a module within this tool that is a GPT wrapper, right? It's using one of the GPTs on the back end to do the type of copy that Charlie's talking about, and then you'll create a bunch of variants of that copy, and then you'll send it out with one of the tools, Smart Lead or Instantly, where you can do a regular email campaign through Go High Level, or like one of the integrations like MailChimp. And with that, you can send 100 emails a day, or 1,000, or 10,000, or 1,000,000 if you want to, if you scale up the infrastructure. So these tools are incredibly powerful, and you can reach a lot of people very quickly. All right, so the next part of selling your brand, right, is doing meeting intelligence. So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of interpret meeting intelligence, right? For what we're discussing now, part of it is being able to stay present in meetings and not constantly being on your phone and looking at your laptop and trying to take notes and the summaries that the AI note takers are now very good at. How many of you actually use an AI note taker in your day-to-day? Great. Do any of you use it for physical conversations as well? Like in-person conversations? Yeah.
He's got one right there. He's
Okay.
got it right now.
Nice. That's great. Yeah. So they are great. They're getting better. For a while, there was an issue with the using it in person where it won't attribute the voice correctly to the person speaking. But that's getting better. And the digital meeting note takers are also getting better, right? They will pull out the action items from the calls that you're having. So you don't even need to worry about, writing down your particular action items. It will say, for example, the meeting that we had for the AI Collective the other day with myself and Ted and Aaron and the other leaders of the AI Collective. We had the meeting summary, and it said, Aaron had 3 to-do list items, Ted had 3 items, myself, I had 3 items, and it was all just nice and clean on the summary. We didn't have to go back and look through it. We had it all without having to be taking notes and juggling a number of different tabs to get that type of feedback. And then another really cool feature of this is actually in the sales process itself, right? When you're training SDRs or other sales representatives, right, especially on new products, they need to get a lot of reps to really understand at a deep level the type of product or service you're selling, the perspective that you're using, the narrative that you're building to sell these clients on, how, the type of transformation you're offering these people, right? So that they have it ingrained that they can answer all of the potential qualifying questions that people have that will come up. And so it's very much a learning process. And AI is incredibly good at, if you set it up for this, right? Incredibly good at monitoring the conversation and then afterwards pulling out the type of action items that these people can use to improve, or the things that they're already improving on to give them kudos, right? To give them that positive motivation that pushes in the right direction to keep doing it. And I've seen this to be incredibly effective, and I've seen essentially brand new sales guys with 3 months of experience start to perform at the level of someone with 10 years of experience, because they're getting this level of feedback after every single call, right? We give them a 15-minute break in between calls. They get the feedback during that time. They go grab some water, they review it, and then they immediately learn something for the next call, rather than having their sales lead review the video footage at the end of the week and review 10 videos. And obviously sitting through 10 hours of video is going to be tough for anyone to do in one sitting, and then find useful things to comment on and help people learn from. Whereas the AI does it instantaneously, essentially, and builds that iterative process seamlessly and without intervention from human beings. So it's very cool.
What tool is that?
So both Calendly and Fireflies can be configured to do that, as well as the Google Note Taker. I'm sure many of the others can do it as well. But.
So like I use Microsoft Teams Notes. And
Okay.
AI Teams Premium comes from that. But that one's specifically for giving iterative feedback on the meeting, like how to improve it.
I'm sure it can be configured. I personally don't use many of the Microsoft products, so I can't.
This one does that?
These do, yes.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
With Microsoft, too,
Okay, I'm gonna tackle this.
Yeah, so this is another great, like, kind of system building here, right? So if you're thinking about, hey, I don't know where my files are, maybe your company does or does not have an intranet already set up. There's great softwares out there like Notion or Glean, and also I love Airtable as well. It's another really great product, and they just released this feature as well to be able to search your repositories. And so you can also connect it if you want to other applications like Slack or Google Drive. I do that to bother my boss every day. I didn't know this though, you can lean into school and other communities to get the kind of courses on that. That's pretty cool as well. And so like what, for example, here with the onboarding, we've literally designed the flow inside of Airtable so that our new staff members come on board and they're shown through all the documents and then how to search inside of Airtable to be able to find every document that they can need as well. So it's incredibly powerful because it's using natural language, again, prompt engineering, natural language, to be able to actually find things that you need easier. And so it's gonna reduce your cost and therefore your time of being able to get those people on board and ready to go as well.
Yeah, I think this part is actually a lot more important than we might be making it seem. Because I've been part of many startups at this point, and almost every single one of them was a disorganized mess when I onboarded, right, or when we started it. And it's only using single source of truth type tools, right, like Notion, like Glean, where you have all of the company data, the meeting notes, all of the ideas, design documents, business documents, all in one place in essentially a wiki style that allows people to easily access and use, that you kind of get that team-wide cohesion and coherency and then start being able to break down tasks to people that are appropriate or allow them to self-select for the type of tasks and knowledge work that they want to do. And so, yeah, Notion has been, a very popular tool for a long time for that reason. But in the context of what we're talking about, right, AI for startups, this type of tool and functionality can't be understated for building a cohesive company where all of the people that you're onboarding and the co-founders and everything are all on the same page. And you use, again, the single source of truth, the same single source of truth for all of the documentation that you use.
So, with this right here, you mentioned earlier about that entrepreneur that has organized these different things. And so I've been to Gemini a little bit because if you go on some of my docs, like, it doesn't always find everything. So, looking at these two right here, would you suggest something that I could like unleash on my drive and on my email, like just find all my things and organize my things? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Yeah, so several of the LLMs can do that natively, right? They have integrations or MCPs that allow them to access your Google Drive. Some of them allow access directly to Notion. Many of the third-party tools, again, like Cursor and some of the others that we mentioned for development, can access your Notion, it can access your GitHub, it can access all of the repos of knowledge that you have for every aspect of your company. So there are many tools that do that, yes.
Question, so will this take the place of like a RAG setup?
It can. I mean, several of the database types that they use are RAG, and some are more conventional, just like Postgres databases. It really depends on the needs of your company and whether you're supporting an LLM for like the RAG, or if you're supporting just standardized data like text and image data.
Like a knowledge base?
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, this can act as your knowledge base for a retrieval augmented generated system.
Knowledge base for the RAG?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
One thing I use is I have Collab create an external memory folder on my desktop. And then I have it store, it keeps its knowledge base and everything there, and then I have instructions, the default instructions built into that I put into Collab, that I have Collab write itself to save everything in that folder and in that structure, and I can tell it to when to update, when to tweak it and everything. Then just on the safety side, I actually have it backed up into GitHub, and then I also back it up into Google Drive as well. But that way, for my products I work on, I have, it can revision documents, go for it. Sometimes it gets a little confused, but then I just yell at it. And luckily, the AICHR hasn't called me yet. And it's been a tremendous system. You use a lot more tokens that way, because it will pull that memory into context. But over time, less is less is more, because it always knows where you are.
Yeah, and Lee brings up an important concept in that you don't want to be using an LLM, you don't want to be using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude as a database, right? They are not database tools. Having a third-party database is very important for making sure that you retain, ownership and sovereignty and the security of your data, right? Do not use a chat window as the database for, anything important, right? It can wipe it at any time.
One of the new features of Claude is it has the ability to run inside its own, a VM inside of itself as a sandbox. Turn that off. Use the external one, and then actually that folder, you have all your documents in markdown text. I go from there and I can take both functional requirements and technical requirements and drag them in the code and can generate code right away. It gives you a common format to share across models. Not to just make Claude cheaper.
Yeah. Cool. Did we have any more questions? No? Okay. Cool, we'll move on. All right. So another aspect of business operations, right, is the delivery and fulfillment of the product or service that you're selling. And there can be many, many, many issues with delivery and fulfillment. Some of the ones that we listed here are like the manual delivery tracking, inconsistent customer communication, delayed responses from the company to issues, customer tickets, things like that, and manual delivery of digital assets. And with many of the tools that we have listed here, right, Intercom, Zendesk, Zapier, Make, or N8N, or one of the other back-end automation tools, and then GPT, Claude, or one of the other LLMs, right, you can customize the communication. You can set up chatbots, which are like agents, like Charlie was mentioning before, to handle customer queries, and do handoffs to members of your staff to essentially do an escalation type process. And that will handle 90% of the type of customer queries that you get. And so you'll need a much smaller staff to actually handle those escalations. And you can set up, delivery workflow automation for just about any type of digital product. Licensed products, ebooks, all of that can be done in a fully digitized manner using these type of workflow automations. And you can have, again, fully automated, customer support and do issue prediction. You can do automated, inventory stocking and fulfillment, things like that with many of the tools that are built into some of these CRMs. So it's very useful and effective, again, for, businesses, especially, businesses that rely on inventory rather than purely digital assets. Do you have anything you wanted to add?
I got a question for you.
Oh.
How important is RAG in the Intercom AI Zendesk sort of situation?
So I have not used RAG specifically with Zendesk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they're using it on the back end, but it's not something that I've used, so I can't really speak directly to it.
Okay, do you just upload documents into it and it can answer the questions for you that your customers
Yeah,
have?
you create a knowledge base, right, just like you would with a standard, chatbot agent.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
And I'm not sure this may have gone to the last slide, but I feel like I'm being held hostage now by ChatGPT. I'm gonna explain why.
Okay.
I've used it for so long. It knows my voice. We have a relationship.
Yep.
Then we decide to switch over to another platform. We try to use Claude. I feel like I keep going back because now I haven't trained Claude. So I feel like I'm stuck. And then something comes up, they go, oh, well, this does better at this, but I feel like I'm stuck here because, again, I feel like it's like a bad relationship you invested in. And I don't know how to transition to see what the other platform offers because I spent so much time in this one platform.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, vendor
Yeah.
lock-in.
Have
Classic
you tried writing, having it write a prompt for you to tell it what to do?
Great idea. Great idea. That's what I was gonna say too. Like, if you have it ask you some questions to understand kind of what you want to take out of it, right? And then you can take that prompt. Does Claude have system prompts? It does,
Yeah.
right? Right?
Yeah, it has, you have a system level
Like
prompt,
memory?
and you can have a project level prompt.
Yep.
Too, so
Perfect.
you can nest them.
So you can take that, and I know Eddie's gonna have a great answer, but you can take that prompt that it gives you and put it in to that other product that you're trying.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's gonna 100% solve it, but I think try that, see what happens.
Also, I recommend using the memory folder technique I was talking about. And then Claude will set it up for you, which is really cool, because then it starts to learn you. And because chat does some of that on the back end, but just as far as technical and writing style, Claude really is much better.
Also want to say, maybe if you, do your brand Bible, and then you take that to each LLM that you wanna use. So maybe just, once you develop it, you can have it in ChatGPT, you can take it, put it in Claude or Gemini, and then now it knows like, your brand colors, your name and all that kind of stuff.
That's a good idea too.
And see which one responds to your writing style. That's something I've discovered is moving between individual LLMs, is it responds, they respond each to different writing styles. And it says sometimes one works better than the other. The one advantage I always look at with Claude is you can also use tags. So you can tag data as you're writing your prompts. That gives you extra context on your data, responds better to that.
Eddie, what you got?
Yeah, so one workaround I found with that was inherently they all function the same where it knows you, so it stores that somewhere. You can inherently export your memory out of ChatGPT. So in your settings, there is gonna be a setting where it accumulated its knowledge base on you over the course of time. You can just take that export out, it'll email it to you, and then embed that into the other. So you're not starting from scratch, like you're starting with the history of that relationship, right? Now you can bring the baggage with you. So now you can kind of remember what it knows about you, and you can even fine tune it prior to that point, right? So if your goal is to go to another LLM, just tell it, write me what you know about me to this point now, commit it to memory, and then export that memory. And it'll email you the memory of your whole conversation that it knows about you, and then bring that to another LLM so you're not starting from scratch.
Great. Any other questions before we move on? No? Okay. Cool. Wanna do automation?
Yeah, sure. So making apps talk to each other, great example. So a lot of time that I kind of spent when I came into 7x7 Collab was doing exactly this, right? So syncing all of our systems together to that central source of truth. I'll tell you right now, huge pain in the ass. And what you do, like, let's say for example, you get a new email. In our case, I'll give you a kind of very concrete example. We get a new application from a company. We route that application to an internal AI. That AI reviews the application, gives it to someone on our team who they think that application would be most fit for, right? That whole thing can be done super simply inside of a platform like Zapier, N8N, any of these tools. There's a learning curve, for sure. But what you can use those tools to do is just set up that flow for yourself, right? Where it comes in, the application, when application is submitted, route it to an LLM to then do the diligence on that information. Then, next step, push that information by email to someone inside the company to do that. And so the sky's the limit, right? Because like depending on how many tools your organization has and if they are integrated with tools like Zapier, you can connect all these different tools together to be able to really create a good central source of truth to kind of ground these AI models that you're doing on that data.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we have another example here that's pretty easy because all of this can be done in ChatGPT now, right? You can link ChatGPT to your Google inbox. And then when you have emails that come into the Google inbox, right, it will use the MCP server to read that email and determine the sentiment of the email. You know, whether the person's sending you a happy or an unhappy type email. And then if it's angry, right, there's also another MCP that allows you to connect to Slack. And so an angry will get an immediate notification with high priority within Slack for the founder to then go in and respond to it. And if it's happy, then the Google will draft a happy response to the customer for you, and then will alert you to review that email. It won't send it, right, on its own, right? You'll go in and you'll review it first, but you'll have that template already pre-built for you to save you a bit of time. So these are very easy and exist natively within ChatGPT right now. So you can do it without any technical expertise. All right, so we've talked about a lot of fluffy stuff, happy stuff, cool stuff that you can do with AI. And so we wanted to include a slide that talks a little bit about, some of the darker side or some of like the less, sexy things to talk about in regards to AI, right? And one of them is hallucinations, right? So AI does get things wrong, partially due to the technology, a lot of times due to not providing the correct context, like we were talking about in the prompting earlier. So providing proper context is incredibly important. But the other part with the technology and the fundamental nature of the transformers, that will improve over time. It's possible that it won't ever be perfect, right, just due to the nature of these types of transformers, but there are other transformer architectures out there that can be more accurate depending on the use case. So hallucinations, at least in the current iteration of the technology, might be here to stay for a little bit longer. And then for data privacy, a lot of people will use the free version of many of these apps and believe that their data is private, and using the free version is almost never private, right? If you're getting technologies for free, almost always you are the customer. It's a very good mantra to remember whenever you're using a piece of free technology. If you're paying money, it depends. Most of the LLMs have an opt-in box that by default will be opted in. So you will have to go in and manually uncheck it to disallow them to use your data in their training of models. And if you're using an enterprise version or you are using the API, by default your data is private unless you opt in. And in addition, for people that have regulatory frameworks like HIPAA and high-tech and things like that, many of the LLMs are willing, or the companies that host the LLMs are willing to sign BAAs, which are business associate agreements, something like that, which will guarantee limited access to your data that is compliant with the regulatory framework that you're required to adhere to. So the next one, do you want to take the uncanny?
Sure, yeah. As we kind of talked about earlier, the premium nowadays is going to be authenticity, your ability to actually relate with the people that you're trying to communicate to, and just putting in an idea into an LLM isn't going to communicate the authentic you, right? So as we kind of talked about earlier, there's lots of ways around that. You can kind of get your personality out. You can use tools online, lots of different ones, to be able to kind of communicate your brand persona, your personal identity, build that into a GPT as well, or any other LLM product. So agree in some ways with this idea, but also remember that you can kind of augment the model to be more attuned toward your actual voice. And you're doing any kind of marketing work, like you have to do that. Yeah.
Cool. So the last one, consistency. So like we talked about in hallucinations absolutely exist in this technology, even when implementing things like guardrails, which help do some type of error correction, right? There's context insufficiency as we described. There's incorrect token prediction, faults within the infrastructure, and other issues that can cause an inconsistency in the output. And so most AI and applications of generative AI, right, are not considered enterprise quality tools. And businesses that require 95 to 99+% accuracy, some of which might be, medical and cybersecurity and related fields where you need incredibly high accuracy, or there could be catastrophic failure to the business and to individuals, right? AI is not necessarily appropriate. We discussed many appropriate use cases for, today in startups and generating documents and linking tools and technologies together. But there are still many where AI is not appropriate and likely won't be appropriate for at least a couple of years, right? Just due to that level of inconsistency. Okay. Do some takeaways.
Yeah, so if you're anything like me, when I started learning about AI, you're probably a little overwhelmed by this conversation. We went through a lot of information. Like this says, just start with one tool. There are lots of tools out there that help you with aggregation, with all of the different toolboxes that are available to you. Start with something in your niche for your industry that you need solved. Start with that. You're probably feeling pressure to implement AI, and to be honest with you, that's pretty fair because AI is an absolutely revolutionary technology. But like this is kind of funny, chat with Claude, right? Vent that out with Claude. Therapy is the #2 use case of most LLM technologies, so it's pretty good at that. And if you're feeling fatigued, you don't need to find just tools that are all over the place. You can go to great aggregation sources. You can use Claude. You can use all different kinds of tools. And then turn off your social media because it's probably telling you all these things that you don't need. And if you start with an actual problem that you're experiencing, right, then AI kind of becomes a solution rather than a fancy new thing. And almost every AI that exists is designed to solve a problem. So start there. What's your problem? What are you trying to solve? Think like a startup. Solve your problem for yourself. And if you're excited about AI tools, come talk to us because we love talking about AI tools all day, every day. And we'd love to kind of help you with that.
True, we really do love talking about AI all day, every day.
For hours, actually.
Yeah. All right, so, what can you take away from this? I always like having something prescriptive at the end and try and make it as simple as possible. So I have like a Monday morning checklist. What can you do the morning after? Tomorrow morning is obviously Friday, so it's really more of a Friday morning checklist, but we'll roll with it. So the first thing is picking a domain, right? A domain, a pain point, a single problem, as Charlie was describing. A problem, like an example of the kind of problem could be, I can't stay on top of the latest research, which is something that I've heard from one of my buddies that does medical research. And what you can do about that, right? You can buy a premium subscription to GPT Plus, Gemini, or Claude Pro. The free models generally don't have the deep research features, which are what is best for doing things like staying on top of research, like a very in-depth research, because there's new articles that are coming out on a daily and weekly basis, and you need a broad and deep search to aggregate all of them. And many of the deep research tools will research several hundred to several thousand articles at a time, and then compile them together for you. And so once you've committed, right, do a single task. Some of these you can actually set up to be recurring tasks, where it will do a weekly research on aggregation of either news articles or research articles in the field that you normally read. It will aggregate them for you. You'll get the summary, and then it will give you all of the links, so it will be completely cited, so no more hallucinating about fake papers. And then you can drill down into any of them that you find that are relevant and useful to the work that you do, right? And so we have a closing story as well, right, just to give a little bit of hype. So in the 1800s, right, when the camera was invented, the painters and many other artists panicked because they truly believed that art as a medium was dead, right? But it turns out that art didn't die, it just changed. And the type of, specific type of art, realism became less valuable as the photorealistic quality was higher quality comparatively than an artist's or an artist's version of realism. And Impressionism, the interpretation of reality, exploded in popularity after that. And so we are, in a way, in that era again, right? Realism, the basic code, email, many of the business and personal workflows that we've had for our entire lives, for many of us, or at least like since the dawn of essentially the .com era, are fundamentally changing. And it is generally within our best interest to roll with the changes rather than fight them, because there's an incredible amount of societal momentum behind them. And I think all of you here, right, you're already on the bandwagon to some degree, right? You're here learning about AI. And so I think you know this, but it's always good to remind people that you're on the forefront of change and you're adapting well to, brand new, relatively complex technologies and doing a great job with it. So I'm gonna call that out. All right, so from both of us, from the AI Collective, thank you everyone for coming. Charlie,
thank you so much.
Collab.
Yeah, Collab appreciates you. Love to see you.
As we said before, these slides will be in Slack. So if you guys want to check out the slides, you don't want to take out your phone and scan all the different QR codes and everything, right? You'll be able to access the slides and use them at your own leisure.
But if you do scan the Clairvoyant code, which I would recommend, it'll get emailed to you, and then you can try it, because I know you're not on your computers, but you can try it on your computer. It's the best place to do it. And if you want to connect with me, I'm always happy to chat about AI, startups, anything like that. You can just use that QR code right there, I think that takes you to my LinkedIn, so you can use that. And Collab's always happy to help, aspiring entrepreneurs get from ideation all the way to venture capital.
Very cool. Great. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to take a minute while we have you guys. You guys just sat for.
Get your phone ready and then
Everyone just sat here for an hour and a half, which I commend you. If you want to get up and stretch, that's totally reasonable. My name's Erin. I'm part of the 4 founders of the AI Collective, and I just wanted to put a feeler out there, let you guys know that in the next year, we just looked at our schedule. We're planning over 60 events in 2026. So, right? That's insane. Which is actually kind of the last 6 months we were doing 4 a month, which is crazy. We've only been doing this for the last 6 months or so. Founders have been doing this in some way, but connected in the last 6 months. We want to keep doing this in 2026. So I'm gonna start recruiting volunteers. We actually have a few volunteers already here who have been helping out, which is awesome. But if you're interested in volunteering, please either connect with me, find us on Slack. We have a volunteer form. And it can be as little as helping set up events to if you want to submit talks. If you like this and you want to kind of submit a talk, partner with us. We're really interested in hearing and collaborating with the community. So that's our main goal, right? Is bringing the human side to this AI wave. So yeah, just want to let y'all know this is awesome. I can't believe everyone showed up in December before the holidays. Thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you.
But the beginning of the Slack, you need the AI Collective Slack.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say one last thing.
Yep.
I just wanted to say this is the last event of the year, and if you've never come to one of our events, thank you for coming out. We love to have new people here, and I think just look around the room. There's a lot of people that you've never met before, but you risked it tonight. You came out, you joined your community, and that's something that we all should pat ourselves on the back for, because that's not a normal thing. We usually hang out with people we know. We usually just collaborate with them, and that's as far as we get. So I just want to shout out to all of you for coming out tonight, and I want you to come out next year. I want you to bring your passion. I want you to bring your questions. I want you to bring your frustrations, and I want us all to grow together, okay? So I hope you have a great holiday season, and before we split, everyone gets out of here, if you're interested, we're going to take a picture together. It's just like a tradition that we do. You can come on in. We're going to take a normal one, and then we'll probably take one that's kind of crazy. So if you're interested in that, you can come on down. We'll share the photo with you too, so if you want to share it someplace, you can take it. But yeah, thank you so much for coming out, and thank you again to the speakers, and to our sponsors, and to our space hosts. They're all wonderful people, so let's give them a round of applause.